Man United, though, because your claim, Hussam, to me today, and you haven't delved any more on this, you just said Ineos are clueless, and you left it at that. So you're calling Ineos clueless. Why are they clueless? Tell us.
I mean, here's the thing. First of all, the sacking of Dan Ashworth. Paying 10 million for Newcastle, just wasting 10 million.
2 million. 2 million. All the things confirmed 2
2
million.
million
It's important to get the facts correct, though, isn't it? Yes.
2 million, wasting 2 million, and then to save money, they sacked all those cafeteria employees and stuff. But anyway, the reason why Ineos are clueless is they kept Ten Hag, gave him transfer power, let him make transfer decisions, and a month into the season, 3 months into the season, fired Dan Ashworth. 2 months into the season, fired Eric Ten Hag. There's a lack of strategic thinking from Ineos' perspective. If you never had belief in Ten Hag anyway, sack him, even if you can't get your first choice target, because this is the same logic I have for transfers as well. This is the same type of logic I have for transfers. If you can't get your plan A, you can go get your plan B. Sometimes a plan B is better than a plan A. Maybe if their plan A was let's say, I don't know, manager X, and they couldn't get him. Amarim was available, by the way, last summer. You could have had Amarim anyway. So if you liked Amarim this much, you could have gotten Amarim in, and then maybe he would have gotten in his own players like a Jokeres or someone like that to try help, kind of the situation that Man United are in. But all these series of wrong decisions is led to where Man United are at right now. If you never had belief in the manager anyway, that's like Terry having someone on straight facts that he doesn't believe in, but he's like, oh, let me give him a trial for 2 months. And then after 2 months, he feels the same way he did before. Like he made that decision where he could have gotten someone for the new season on the straight facts show and went like, okay, I have had enough of this guy before him. I will give a new chance. And this is why for me, I'm looking at this current situation that Man United are in, and we cannot just scapegoat Eric Ten Hag. We can't just say this is all Ten Hag's fault and no one else's fault, because as we can see, Ruben Amorim even at his start is struggling. And what proves the fact that Ruben Amorim is a good manager is that Sporting Lisbon have lost games to the likes of Moreirense, and there's another club they lost to that I've never heard of, and yesterday they lost to Club Brugge. So obviously Ruben Amorim had a massive hand in where Sporting Lisbon are before he left them, or were, if you would like, in the past tense. So we know Amorim is a good manager. They waited so long to make all these decisions and ended up sacking Dan Ashworth as well. So now you have an indecisive ownership that has a lack of direction, in my opinion, until they prove otherwise and show the whole world that, yes, we do have a direction, and yes, we're willing to make the correct decisions, and yes, we're going in the right way. Now, and this is my final point on this. January and May will prove a lot. January and May, if the transfers are Portuguese League to Man United, Sporting Lisbon to Man United, then nothing's changed. Now I know what the Terry rebuttal is going to be. Oh, but obviously everyone would take Jokeres. Yes, but I'm not talking about the likes of Jokeres. I'm not even talking about the likes of Diomande. I'm talking about transfers like the ones Ten Hag made, where you're signing a Malacia, where you're signing players of that ilk, where you're signing players of that caliber that might not even necessarily improve Man United, but you're just wasting money for the sake of it. You have to see a crystal clear direction where the football club is scouting players and getting players in that help Man United succeed, instead of just going like Amorim.
So do you mean like the young man Diego Leon, the 17-year-old wonder kid that we're about to sign from Paraguay for £8 million? That kind of deal being different, sort of very old school Man United. So what we're about to pull off and we're negotiating right now, that's the type of deal that will make you go, Ineos have a plan and a difference.
100%. Okay. But repeatedly. So it's like not just sign Leon and then sign 4 Sporting players after that.
Yeah. Can I ask something? Who hired Dan Ashworth? Who hired Dan Ashworth? Is it records?
Well, yes.
I actually tried to look this up. It said that he was scouted way before actually Ineos bought the club. But so I don't know who actually wanted Dan Ashworth. Terry, can you tell us, please?
So look, I think that he was scouted and he was someone the club were looking at prior to the Ineos intervention. But Ineos have to hold this, and I was very outspoken on Sunday when it was announced that he'd gone, that they've made a mistake here in terms of they thought, by the way, I thought, and I still think he'll go on to do a very good job somewhere else. He's got a very good CV. He's got a very good pedigree. in their interviews, they clearly thought he was somebody they could work alongside and get the best out of and make Man United better. But of course, they've made a mistake in his actions, in his demands, in his... And this is what I would say. This is what, just very quickly on what you said, Hassam, about you mentioned that Ten Hag, that's on Ineos. Ultimately, it is because they run the football element of the club. So I agree. But where I don't blame them in the short term is they hired Ashworth and they gave him the control and power to make those decisions. Now, some will say the decision was finalized before Ashworth officially started. But if you were naive enough to think that for 6 months, Dan Ashworth knew he was joining Man United and he sat around doing absolutely no background work, no communications, I think you're extremely naive to what goes on in the world of serious business. People that are on gardening leave are often working for their new companies well ahead of time. So they did the right thing by giving him the anonymity and the power to make those decisions. Where I disagree with your point, Hassam, is that you are right. Ashworth got it wrong, not just with Ten Hag, but a number of the ingoings and outgoing deals this summer. And what Ineos have done is they've reviewed it 6 months, 5-6 months in and gone, do you know what? You said we were better off keeping them. I'm paraphrasing here, but you said we were better off keeping the manager and giving him a new structure. You opted for these couple of players to stay that we could have got big money from, and they're still performing badly. It's now cost us additional money. Boom, you're gone. That the way we've responded to the mistakes, I don't think is a problem. I will criticize the bad hire in the first place, the same as you as Liverpool fans did. You know, when you guys went from Michael Edwards to Julian Ward onto whoever that Jorgen Smith, you guys went through a number of sporting directors after Michael Edwards until now you've got a new one in. They didn't do a good enough job, and they were removed for not delivering for you. Man United, Ineos, have done nothing different to, say, for instance, Ineos in that moment is they've gone for someone who's highly recommended. And your example of Terry hiring someone for YouTube, I know YouTube, so I know the right people to employ. If I bought a business next week, like a restaurant, it's a lot harder for me maybe in the early stages to get the appointments right because you're going off recommendations and you don't know the industry fully. So I feel as though, although they already own a football club, that you're dealing a different monster when you're with Man United. Ineos deserve criticism for getting the Dan Ashworth.
Okay, can I just tell you one sentence about that Schmatka thing quickly?
Yeah, go on.
You're using an example of a badly run Liverpool at that time. So you indirectly are actually making my point stronger because that's the worst run Liverpool example.
I don't think I am. And the reason why I say it is this. I think Liverpool have been a very well-run club over a long period of time. The same as if you look at Manchester City, there's people saying now, oh, United are not going to have a sporting director now. It's a really big problem. It isn't, because these jobs and these roles evolve over time. If you look at the Manchester City examples, they had a director of football between 2008 and 2012. They haven't had a director of football under that title since. Brian Kidd was a technical director for about 6 months when the new owners came in. They've not had a technical director since. Omar Barada was head of football operations from 2020 until he left in 2024. But before it and after it, they haven't had somebody in that role. If you look at Arsenal, they had Raul as head of football operations between 2018 and 2020. Nobody before, nobody since. Edu, that's just left, was initially the technical director. He then became the sporting director, but they didn't bring a new technical director in. And the reason why I think this is important is, of course, there are going to be peaks and troughs, ups and downs with any ownership. Even the best run clubs in the world appoint the wrong person to sporting director roles. You've just gone from Michael Edwards. You guys were famed for how well you did. And then you made a couple of bad appointments. So I think writing off...
That affected us negatively.
And again, but that's not what we're disagreeing with. I'm not disagreeing that the Dan Ashworth appointment was wrong. What I am saying is I think people are making too bold a statement too early on that it proves, one, that they're clueless, and for some people that they're never going to get it right. They're also, a lot of people are also stating, well, you're not going to get another sporting director. That's terrible for your club. Is it? There's multiple examples I've just put up on screen there of when people have left, the club haven't replaced that individual. Do you know why that happens in most organizations? Because you realize do you know what? Over the last 3 years of that role, we actually realize that this person can absorb most of that work. We don't need to go out and hire somebody else. Or they create, there's a number of roles. I was looking at all the clubs earlier on today. Lots of clubs have gone from having a chief scout, and then the chief scouts left in 2018. How can they not have a new chief scout? Well, they do. But that job's done by the person that's now called head of international relations and scouting. And it's a new person that came in. I think people are overreacting to the early problems that the structure is facing at Man United. The criticism of it is correct, but I think there is and the one question I would ask, if you boys do think they're clueless, and to anyone in the comment section who thinks they're clueless and they're not going to get it right, my question is, and that isn't the same as criticizing something they've got wrong because I've done that, is tell me where we're going to be in 3 years. Let's put it on record today. The gentleman on the panel and every wonderful person watching, put it on record about where we're going to be in 3 years' time. Because remember, people were saying this about Clearlake and Todd Bowley 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 2 years ago, that not only they're not going to be in title races and win trophies, Jamie Carragher said, why is anyone signing for them? They're a Finnish football club. Now they're 4 points off the top of the league. So my point to everybody is this, and we'll get onto the other stuff in a moment with the redundancies and everything else. I think that's a separate conversation that's being muddied into one. I am not happy that they got the Dan Ashworth appointment wrong. What I'm very happy about, and I think does demonstrate a change at the club, is that we had Woodward making mistakes for 8 years and never sacked him. We actually waited for him to resign and then kept him on as a consultant. This time round, bad decisions have been made, and we all said it was a bad mistake. We all three of us said keeping Ten Hag was wrong, didn't we? Not one of us said, I'm chuffed with that move. But the person who made that decision has lost their job over it. That, to me, doesn't guarantee, but it gives me hope because it feels different how it operates